All right, welcome back. We're going to keep this conversation going about different ways to grow community in the XR industry, so it's AR and VR and everything in between. And this video, the topic of this video is going to be the difference between approaches that a smaller team, a smaller company might take and a larger company. I've seen both, I've looked at both. And it seems to me that there seems to be this trend where smaller companies tend to do better with communicating with their audience, and that can be anywhere from one developer to a small team of developers. I see them doing a lot more interpersonal dialogue with their user base, direct contact, or even contact in Discords, things of that nature. Whereas with larger teams, I kind of see that's where the disconnect starts to happen. So when you have like a larger company, because of the structure and nature of the company, there seems to be a little bit of friction to get that going and to sustain it. Again, with a smaller team, you're going to have less funding, you're going to have less resources, less people. You would think that would also mean less communication. However, in a lot of these creative apps, and I'm going to talk about two very briefly, you've got Neos VR, which is a social platform. And you've got one that I really like, which is DoodleLens. The case of DoodleLens, it's a single developer, Aiden Wolf, and with the other one, I believe there's like a core developer, Fruxius, I believe. He most likely has other people helping him out. I have to check in to verify that. So with these smaller groups, what I tend to see is that there is even more communication with the audience, with the creators, right? I like seeing that, right? Because for me, that's the best way to handle this. In the case of Neos, because there's a smaller team, there's probably more of a focus on certain aspects of the platform, of the tool. You can't be a master to everything. And I think that's where having a community and input from the community really helps to flesh that out. So the user interface and the onboarding, I believe those are two areas that can be improved, and I'm sure that the developers know this and they're constantly working on it whenever they can. But if you don't have a help doc set up, if you don't have knowledge bases, resources, things of that nature, this is where community can bridge the gap. And in my view, this is one of the most important ways that this can happen. And so what I like to see is users within, let's say, a social VR in this case, but it can also work it can work in AR as well. Users teaching other users. That's what I love to see. Because that way, the lessons that are being learned are being sort of transcribed and handed down from person to person. And it makes it that much easier for those lessons, those core concepts to stick, because a lot of the times these things are really complex. It creates this kind of genuine bond between the users in your community, right? So if you don't have the support team to be able to do this, again, you can support the folks who are doing it within your community and give them shout outs and whatever you can do to help show them that you are really appreciative that they're doing this on your behalf, right? Also, once you get to that point where your community is taking it upon itself to teach each other, that shows growth in your community. It shows that you've reached a different stage in the level of the community, and we'll talk about that later. To me, that shows that you've reached the next level, right? If you can hand off some of that to the community and they're teaching each other, that's great. So what happens with larger companies, right? Where is this disconnect? Well, with the larger company, of course, you have a different hierarchy. There's more levels of abstraction. There's more people that have to sign off on things, and you're beholden to more types of people, investors, shareholders, things of that nature. If you're chasing what you think the user is going to want rather than doing market research, or even better, going directly to a core set of users or finding some and having them test out your product and having communications with them, right, and conversations. If you don't do those things, then you're really making a bet on the fact that you know what the user wants, and especially in this industry where things change very rapidly. If you're willing to make that bet, especially with like investor money or whatever, more power to you. But if you want to make decisions that are informed, then communicating with your community at every step is the right way to go, in my opinion. Otherwise you fall into this trap of going in directions that no one asked you to go into, working on features that are not crucial to the growth of your app, that users are not going to adopt or really utilize. That's lots of hours of development that are being wasted, lots of hours of developing documentation around these features that no one's going to use. So it's very important to know, have a clear direction and know the path, the product pipeline, all this kind of stuff, and have that be driven by the communications with the folks that are going to end up using your product. On the flip side, if you do have this research, you can back it up and you can tell your investors and shareholders, look, we know who our core audience is. This is what they're doing with our product. This is how we're utilizing that to create initiatives and marketing based on what's been created. You can make a case and extrapolate from there that we can take this to a broader audience because of this, right? But otherwise, if you don't have that information, then you're kind of just making it up as you go. And a lot of people are good at doing that, but that's, it just doesn't really make any sense, right? Especially in this industry where things change very rapidly, and not having a good community can make a difference between your product being around in the long term. Not everyone has Facebook money, right? So you have to play it smart. So I'll leave it at that. Is your company willing to make a bet like this, where you'd rather build out a tool and then try to find people to adopt it? Or do you think it's a better idea to bring in some folks who are going to be your end users, talk to them, have conversations, make decisions based on that information? If there's anyone out there that has any other ideas around this topic, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video. Please like, share, subscribe. If you want to donate on Patreon, you can do that too. But yeah, otherwise, I'll see you later. Just wanted to add a little something to the discussion here. I jumped onto Twitter and I wanted to add another product out there that I admire the fact that there is so much communication going on despite there just being one developer here, and that's Sculptor VR and Nathan from Sculptor VR. I've really enjoy using the app and across all of the different headsets that I own. I like to see developers like him and Aiden from Doodle Lens and Fruxius and other people like that really making a commitment to communicating with their audience to the degree that they can, right? It's tricky to find that balance, but I think it's crucial. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, thanks for watching.